My name is Caleb, a 43-year-old Master Sergeant with the 101st Airborne Division. I was halfway through a deployment in Al Udeid, Qatar, when my world collapsed. 13 years of marriage ended with a subject line that read, "Let's handle this like adults." The email was cold, 3 sentences. My wife Amelia had already filed the divorce paperwork, emptied our shared bank account, and moved her new boyfriend Derek into our home in Boise, Idaho. I stared at the screen, the desert heat clinging to my skin. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I showered in silence, suited up for my next shift, and told no one. That night I typed a single word in reply. Understood. No drama, no begging. But inside, something shifted. Amelia had changed months before I left. New friends, new passwords, gym sessions that didn't leave her sore. I saw the signs, but I stayed silent. I'm not the type to snoop or accuse without proof. Instead, I prepared, moved my valuables, diverted part of my salary, opened a private account. I didn't expect betrayal, but I was ready for it. And what she didn't know, what she never saw coming, was that I never start fights, but I always finish them. 6 months before my deployment, Amelia started to disappear in small ways. Not physically, she was still there in the house, still sleeping beside me, but emotionally she was vanishing. She used to ask me about my day, about the soldiers in my unit, about the missions we ran. Then she stopped. The conversations dried up. She started working late, at the dental clinic where she answered phones. Then came the gym, 3 nights a week, always perfectly done up, but never once sore or tired afterward. She bought new clothes, began texting more, laughing at messages she'd never let me see. I noticed everything, but I didn't say a word. See, I was raised by a man who taught me to act only when I was sure. My dad was a quiet rancher who believed in preparation over panic, so I watched, and I prepared. I opened a secure storage unit on the far side of town and moved our most important documents there. My birth certificate, military awards, the deed to the house, which thanks to a VA loan, was in my name. I quietly pulled my grandfather's watch and my mother's wedding ring out of the bedroom and stored them too. Then I did something I never told Amelia. I opened a new bank account at a different branch and redirected a portion of my salary into it. Nothing large enough to catch her attention. Just enough that if things fell apart, I wouldn't be flat on my back. The night before deployment, we stood in the airport. She hugged me with stiff arms and whispered, "Stay safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry, cold, not like a wife saying goodbye to her husband, more like someone parting with a distant co-worker. I should have known, but a part of me still clung to hope. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just lonely. The Army takes its toll on more than the soldiers. It wears on the ones left behind too. Still, what came next told me everything I needed to know. 2 weeks after her email, I was in the mess hall when I got a notification from our joint bank account. $88,500. Gone. Not a mistake, not a glitch. She'd drained nearly everything. Our savings, built over a decade, had vanished. That night, I called the bank from the base's comm center. They walked me through the transactions. Amelia had been moving the money for weeks, slowly at first, then in larger chunks. The day after I deployed, the real withdrawals began. I hung up the phone and stood in the hallway, staring blankly at the rows of soldiers laughing with their families over video calls. Their lives were normal. Mine was falling apart. And that's when Logan, my squad mate, found me. "You look like someone died," he said gently. "My marriage did," I muttered. He paused. "So what's your next move?" That was the moment everything changed, because now it wasn't about love. It was about strategy. 2 nights after I learned about the missing $88,500, I couldn't sleep. My body was exhausted from patrol, but my mind was in overdrive. Around 3 a.m., I remembered something Amelia had probably forgotten. I still had remote access to our home security system. I opened my laptop in the dim light of my bunk and logged in. The feed was live. There he was, a stranger, tall, unshaven in my Seahawks hoodie, drinking coffee from my favorite mug. Derek, the man she'd left me for. He walked our dog, Scout, around the yard I'd landscaped by hand. He lounged on the couch I built with my own hands during leave. And there was Amelia, laughing in the kitchen I had remodeled with money from my final deployment bonus. It wasn't anger that hit me, not sadness either. It was something colder, sharper, like steel sliding into place. I closed the laptop and pulled out my phone. No emotion, just a list. Call James, former unit buddy turned attorney. Review VA loan terms. Check for unauthorized changes on the house deed. Monitor pension and benefits accounts. Verify security on private bank accounts. Request emergency leave through command. This was no longer a marriage issue. This was war. James called back by noon. "I found something," he said. "You're not going to like it." He sent me scans of a refinancing application on the house, with my signature. Except, it wasn't mine, not really. The middle initial was off. The pen strokes were wrong, forged. "She took out a $330,000 loan against your home," James explained. "It needed your signature. She faked it, and she listed Derek as a co-applicant." I sat there motionless. 13 years of life, stolen, erased, manipulated. "She can't do that," I said, my voice like gravel. "She already did," James replied. "But don't worry, we're not just fighting for your money anymore. This is fraud." That evening I went dark. No calls, no texts. I quietly returned to the States 2 months early on emergency leave. Checked into a motel under a false name. No one, not even Amelia, knew I was home. James and I met at a diner on the edge of Boise. He handed me a folder packed with documents, bank records, forged loan papers, even digital timestamps matching my deployment to her transactions. "She's been planning this," he said, "and it gets worse." He slid over a final sheet. A list of property transfers made by a real estate agent named Miles Cooper, same one tied to Derek in 3 previous cases. "She was getting ready to sell your house, Caleb, for cash, below market value. Derek gets a cut. Miles handles the sale. It's a pattern. They've done this before. 3 military families, and now you." Suddenly, it wasn't just betrayal. It was a criminal operation, and I had just become their biggest mistake. I used to think betrayal was something you felt, a heartbreak, a gut punch. But sitting there in that dusty motel room, reviewing forged documents and surveillance footage, I realized something else. Betrayal is strategy, and mine just backfired on them. The next morning, I met with the loan officer who had signed off on the refinance. I brought my military ID, my original documents, and a copy of my real signature. I saw his face pale as he compared the forgery to the real thing. I'll need to escalate this immediately," he stammered. "I already filed a police report," I said calmly. "This meeting is just a formality." That night, Amelia texted me for the first time since her email from the desert. "Who have you been talking to at the bank?" Derek said someone's been asking questions. I didn't answer. Instead, I filed legal motions with James. freezing the property, contesting the refinance, and placing a fraud alert on every account connected to my name. Then I sent our security footage access to Agent Patel at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. They'd already been watching Miles Cooper and Derek for months, and now they had me, someone on the inside, someone they didn't expect. What hit me hardest wasn't the theft, not even Amelia's lies. It was realizing how many families this had happened to. I wasn't alone. There were others, deployed service members who'd returned home to empty bank accounts, stripped homes, and broken marriages. They were ghosts in their own lives, but I wasn't going to be another statistic. A week later, Amelia called again. I let it go to voicemail. "Caleb, please. The bank froze the money. Derek's truck was impounded. The house? What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can be civil. We can talk." Civil? Talk? The same words she used when she gutted our lives through email. No response. Just silence from my end. But the best part? While she begged me to meet at a park across town, James and I watched from across the street as Miles Cooper and Derek entered my house with a clipboard and camera. "We'll list it at $470, Miles said through the audio feed. "Cash offer should come quick. If your husband tries to fight it, we settle. Military guys are always too busy to make real trouble." Wrong. This military guy wasn't too busy. This military guy had a plan. James recorded every word. I forwarded the live feed to Agent Patel with a short note, "Happening now." 30 minutes later, FBI SUVs pulled up. Guns drawn, agents surrounded the house. Derek and Miles came out in handcuffs. And Amelia? She arrived just in time to see the cuffs click shut. She stood on our lawn, my lawn, frozen, speechless, watching the life she tried to steal collapse in front of her eyes. For the first time since that deployment email, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt clarity. After Derek and Miles were arrested, everything moved fast. The FBI had enough to pursue federal charges: conspiracy, wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted property theft involving VA benefits. It was bigger than anyone expected. Miles had done this in 3 states. Derek? Even more. But Amelia? She was the question mark. Was she a pawn or a player? I met with Agent Patel 2 days later at the FBI field office in Boise. "Your case broke it open," she told me. "You weren't the only one, Caleb, but you were the first to fight back loud enough." They'd already begun building restitution for other victims. But before they moved on Amelia, they needed more. I gave them everything: bank statements, message logs, audio recordings, security footage. I didn't flinch. I wasn't protecting her anymore. Later that week, Amelia called. I let it ring. Then the voicemail. "I didn't know about the fraud. Derek said you were hiding money, that you'd leave me with nothing. I didn't want to lose everything, Caleb." But she already had. James called. "She's panicking. Her lawyer reached out. She's offering full restitution to sign away any claim to the house or your pension. In exchange, you don't press charges." I thought long and hard. Revenge isn't my style. Justice? Yes. But I wasn't out to destroy her. I just wanted what was mine. "Let her sign," I said. The next day she did. She forfeited her claim to everything: the house, the VA loan, the pension. Even the joint savings she stole was returned. James filed the paperwork. The divorce became final 6 months after she emailed me in Qatar. No fault, clean break, but it didn't feel like an ending. Not yet. One afternoon, Agent Patel called again. "Thought you'd want to know. Derek pled guilty. 8 years. Miles got 12. They cooperated. Uncovered 11 more families they scammed. Your evidence built the pattern. It hit me then. I hadn't just salvaged my life. I'd stopped these predators from destroying more. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace. I sold the house. I couldn't stay. Too many ghosts in the walls. Too many memories soaked into the floorboards. Instead, I found a small cabin outside of Missoula, Montana. 10 acres, a creek, no neighbors, no noise. I adopted a German Shepherd, named him Scout, started doing woodwork for the locals, built furniture, fixed porches, hung shutters. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. The Army gave me 20 years. I gave it everything I had. Now I was giving myself something new, stillness. One morning I got a letter from a woman in Texas. Her husband was in the Navy when Derek tried to pull the same scam on her. She wrote, "You don't know me, but you saved us. Thank you." I pinned a letter to my fridge because when the silence felt too heavy, it reminded me. I didn't just survive, I fought back and I won. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the stolen money or even the forged signature. It was learning how to live again without a mission. For 20 years I had one: serve, protect, deploy, return. The rhythm was brutal, but it was familiar. In the Army, I knew who I was. I had a role, a unit, brothers who'd die for me, orders that gave shape to every day. After everything unraveled, I realized I didn't know who Caleb Briggs was without a uniform. At first, retirement felt like exile. The cabin in Montana was quiet, too quiet. No boots hitting the floor at 0500. No radio checks, no fire drills, just pine trees and silence. But slowly I began to find rhythm in new things. Scout and I would walk the land each morning, following the creek that snaked behind the cabin. I started waking with the sun, not an alarm. I built a wood shop in the old shed and began taking orders. Furniture, doors, hand-carved mantles. The kind of work that demanded patience, precision, and presence. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. One evening, I fixed a broken chair for an elderly widow down the road. She paid me in homemade peach cobbler. I sat on my porch eating it slowly, watching the sun drip behind the mountains. I smiled. Not because I had everything figured out, but because, for once, I didn't need to. I'd gone to war 4 times, but it wasn't until Amelia that I learned what it meant to be truly wounded. And it wasn't until I rebuilt myself here, plank by plank, that I learned what it meant to heal. James and I still talk. He checks in from time to time, especially when there's a new fraud case that reminds him of mine. Sometimes we laugh about how this all started, with a cold 3-sentence email. Sometimes we don't laugh at all. A few months ago, I joined a local veterans group. We meet at the firehouse every Thursday night. It's not therapy, no one calls it that, but we talk about deployment, about loss, about starting over when your compass is shattered. And sometimes I tell my story, not to vent, but to warn, because it wasn't just Amelia's betrayal. It was a systemic failure, a culture that assumes loyalty at home while we serve abroad, and predators like Derek and Miles who weaponize that assumption. Now, when I speak with purpose, and I tell every young soldier the same thing. Protect your home like you protect your unit. Be ready, be smart, and if the people you trust betray you, don't break, rebuild. A year after Amelia's email detonated my life, I stood on the porch of my cabin, coffee in hand, Scout lying at my feet. The sun cut through the trees in long golden beams. The creek whispered just beyond the fence line. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't waiting for the next storm. Because I'd already survived the worst one. The court case was over. Derek was behind bars. So was Miles. 11 other families got justice because I refused to stay silent. Because I refused to fold. But none of that was what gave me peace. What did was the quiet. The steady rhythm of living a life on my own terms. I stopped checking Amelia's social media. Stopped wondering if she missed what we had or if she ever truly loved me. The truth was, it didn't matter anymore. Some people are lessons, some people are warnings, and some people, like me, are survivors. That small cabin became more than a home. It became a symbol of what can happen when you refuse to be defined by your scars. I planted a small garden out back. Nothing fancy, just tomatoes, peppers, a few herbs. I built a bench under the biggest tree by the creek where I'd sit and think, sometimes for hours. Not about war, not about betrayal, but about possibility. Life didn't go the way I thought it would. I didn't get the peaceful retirement with a loving wife and kids running through the yard, but I got something else. Freedom. Freedom to rebuild, to start from zero and make something better. I still keep that letter on my fridge, the one from the Navy wife I helped. It reminds me that this story, as brutal as it was, served a greater purpose. That my fight mattered not just to me, but to people I'll never meet, in cities I'll never visit. And in that way, I'm still serving, still protecting, still showing up. One day, a young soldier in the veterans group pulled me aside. "How did you come back from all that?" he asked. I looked at him for a moment, then said, "I didn't come back. I moved forward." Because that's what healing is, not erasing the past, but building something new in spite of it. I may have lost a marriage, lost a home full of memories, but what I gained was far more valuable. Clarity, resilience, and peace. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm better. And when I think of Amelia now, I don't feel anything at all. She made her choices, and I made mine. And mine led me here, to a quiet place where the wind carries no lies, where the only footsteps I follow are scouts, and where the life I'm living finally belongs to no one but me. Life has a way of testing our strength, not in the heat of battle, but in the silence after the storm. Caleb's story is a testament to quiet resilience, to choosing calm over chaos, and to standing tall when everything you built is torn away. He could have lashed out. He could have spiraled, but instead he strategized. He healed. He rebuilt. The lesson: never hand over your power, even when life tries to strip it away. Betrayal is painful, but it doesn't get the final word. You do. And while trust may be broken, identity doesn't have to be. You are more than what was done to you. You are what you choose to do next. Whether it's a failed relationship, a financial blow, or a personal loss, your strength isn't proven by how loudly you fight, but by how steadily you rise. If you're facing betrayal, financial loss, or emotional collapse, pause, breathe, then begin planning, not reacting. Start small, secure important documents, consult professionals, protect your assets, talk to people you trust, legal advisors, therapists, support groups. Learn your rights. Learn your worth. Don't let shame or pride stop you from asking for help. Caleb didn't win because he was a soldier. He won because he was prepared, calm, and informed. And most importantly, don't believe the lie that your life is over. It's not. It's just beginning again, differently. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.